exfiltrate documents in seconds with the USB Rubber Ducky Part 2. All that and more this time on Hak5.
Hello, welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen.
My name is Shannon Morse.
It's your weekly dose of techno-lust.
Welcome to the show.
Or is that turkey lust?
Turkey lust.
By the time this
it's
airs.
It's not Thanksgiving yet.
In the United States, at least.
Well, like tomorrow, I think,
Right.
based on the schedule that's in my head.
There you go.
We work too much.
We work very hard.
But you know what I did on Monday this week?
Worked very hard.
Worked very hard. Well, I got my hands on one of those NES Classics, the Nintendo Classic. Teeny tiny console. It has like 30 games installed. Yes, I have built retro pies. You don't have to comment about it. We have like, can I mention?
Hey, we did a really good gaming
ROMs
segment here
and emulators?
recently.
Can I mention things that we
box?
have? Yeah, I think it was that.
Yeah, this was fun. I don't know, Retro Arch? I don't even. Yeah, I think so. Yes, that was the distro.
There's so many.
There's so many.
There's so many. But yeah, the thing's really, really cool. There was a little girl like in our office, one of our friends' daughters, and she was playing Nintendo for like 4 hours. It was
Watching a 6-year-old play Mario Brothers for the first time.
Oh my gosh, it was
Heartwarming.
Adorable.
Yes.
So adorable. So much nostalgia. Oh, amazing.
You know, this is actually going to be a little bit, this segment is a little nostalgic for me because I just pulled code from the USB Switchblade for this.
What?
I know, right?
The Switchblade? All right, go back.
Hak5 Season 2.
Season 2.
Don't watch it. It's terrible.
We're
mostly
such noobs.
lit the entire time. It's all in standard definition, so it's totally unwatchable.
There's beers in the fridge, by the way.
Why are we not having one right now?
I know, we should totally have one.
Maybe during the break.
Do you want to get a beer?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. So this episode is going to be super fun. This is part 2 of our exfiltrating documents series, where we are learning how to use a USB Rubber Ducky to obfuscate itself and steal documents from a computer, from a target computer. So today we are continuing that series with the USB Rubber Ducky. In the last part, we tackled the stager payload, which enumerated the drive letter of our USB flash drive, and then it executed the staged payload. So today, we're gonna be looking at those stages and how they work. And then finally, at the very end, we will be wrapping this up by combining the USB Rubber Ducky's hit attack with mass storage firmware and encoding the Ducky script.
Yes, and you know what? While I go run and grab the beers, why don't you explain why we're on such a ducky kick? And that is because we were just, the USB Rubber Ducky was just featured on the TV show.
Oh,
is it NBC?
That's right. Blacklist?
Blacklist. We totally watch TV.
Totally. Yeah. So we were recently on a Blacklist episode. They were basically going through like the Wikipedia entry of the USB Rubber Ducky, describing how the attack works, and they were trying to find this person who was able to hack into a network, is what it seems, with the USB Rubber Ducky by basically going up in person and social engineering some people. Let me see if I can get that video pulled up for you guys.
Rom, you all right?
What's wrong?
Everything. Everything's wrong. Sir, I did as you ordered and isolated all the malicious code, or remnants of it, buried deep in our operating system. At first I was confused. Our firewall should have bounced it, but then I realized the only way we could have been breached was through social engineering, or physical access with a rubber ducky. A what? A keystroke injection attack platform disguised as a thumb drive. It would bypass all standard countermeasures by emulating a plug-in keyboard, reprogramming our host computer as if the hacker was manually typing in the code.
Still, the culprit would have to plug in a thumb drive.
Yes, someone had to dupe an FBI employee with level 4 clearance. I spent the last 18 hours collating logins with the first appearance of the malicious code in order to figure out who got punked, so we could interview the employee and nail that hacker.
And it was you. Fine. I'll run another system check.
Good, you do that.
I'll call back in 10 minutes.
Quack, quack, bitch.
All right, so I like that blacklist video.
Yes,
It's pretty
absolutely.
ridiculous.
Especially the
Hello,
ending.
random hand.
Cheers. It's the hack shop.
Yay, hack shop. That was the hack shop. One hand.
Yeah, actually, there's two hands in
One
the hack
hand
shop
packing
now.
all of the packages. So moving on.
Moving on, yes. So, very excited because guess what? We were able to optimize the staged payload to like just bring it down to even less characters, which means faster.
Yes.
More intense.
Yes.
So let's take a look.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the staged payload that we were previously using. And essentially what this did was, this is like a one-liner that you can toss into the Windows run line. So
Right.
if I copy that, I can hit Windows key R. See, the last thing I ran was Notepad.
That way it runs really quick. You don't have to worry about any GUI errors or
Yep.
anything like that.
Yeah, and these are the simplest Ducky payloads, are the ones that just bring up the run line and then paste, and type something in here. And in this case, it types, let's see, 257 characters, which is
Right.
almost to the limit. The limit is 260. So that's great. What this does is it deletes the run. Actually, I'll just go ahead and run this part right here so you can see. So following up on last week, essentially, if I do PowerShell and in quotes put that, okay. And then I hit Windows key R again, and now Notepad isn't in there, it's all blank. So the first part of this stager is to get rid of, clearing its tracks. And then the next part is to get the volume for the drive that is labeled DK, assign it to a variable, $UP, CD over to it, and run d.cmd off of there.
Nice.
Well, with a little bit of help, thank you everybody in the comments that was able to help bring this down. I got it over to, let's see, 83 characters.
What?
But you know what? Props to Digster, getting it down to 65 characters. So
Wow.
with each character that we save, it's fewer keystrokes that we actually have to inject, which makes the payload run even that much faster. And basically, we're moving a lot of the heavy lifting over to the various other stages that we'll be running.
Oh, I
So
see.
one of the first things that we did to actually speed this up, every character counts.
Yeah.
Using a lot of aliases,
Yes.
right?
My
Love
favorite.
those. As well as, reducing the, actually not even using a variable. So previously, everything was stored in a
Wow.
variable UP. I tried reducing that just, one more character to U and then recycle it over here with u.name. But this right here just goes ahead and executes the actual CMD by first enumerating for the label and then is
Oh, I
tacking
see.
on the backslash d.cmd. So it actually just, this dot right here is what's telling it to actually run.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, it's algebra. It's like the things in parentheses are going to happen first.
That
So
happens first, and then it does the name plus d.cmd.
And then this is just escaping out because we're in quotes. And then basically what we're doing now is looking for the drive letter with the label underscore rather than DK, because that saves one more character. So
Nice.
we're down to like as few possible characters, I think. But if anybody can get this down from 65 characters to even fewer, please, by all
Wow.
means, and mad props to Digster on Twitter for sending that one by, because this just is brilliant. I love what this ends
Awesome.
up doing. Yeah,
Thank you, internets. You guys are amazing.
absolutely.
All right, so what do the stages do exactly?
Well, right now we're just running d.cmd, which would be our first of the stages. And d.cmd just runs e.cmd invisibly with i.vbs.
Okay.
But let's actually take a look at how that works.
Yeah.
So here is d.cmd. You can see I've remmed out the previous version of this stage, which would basically start e.cmd in a minimized state using start/min.
Okay.
Instead of doing that, I've just commented that out here with rem. I'm using a different method completely, which is to use cscript, right, which executes basically Visual Basic scripts and other scripts of that nature. This
hence
particular
VBS, okay.
.vbs, and i.vbs takes an input file, which in this case is e.cmd. This thing right here, which is a long bit of PowerShell, you can see it's quite a bit of stuff. Let's go ahead and actually just run this in PowerShell. So I'm going to go ahead and take everything in quotes, and we'll take a look at this. So if I open PowerShell now, and just go ahead and paste that, we can see that this one-liner creates a variable WSH. It's a new object, it's a COM object, it's a WScript shell, and then it does this send keys. This is really interesting. Send keys, kind of like the ducky, in fact.
Yeah, send key caps lock. So it's telling the computer or PowerShell that it's running caps lock?
Yeah, basically using send keys, we could just send a keystroke in PowerShell, much the way the USB Rubber Ducky sends a keystroke with the string Ducky script.
That's actually pretty cool.
It is kind of cool. And what's really interesting about this is if you take a look at the rest of this, basically we're sending the key caps lock, then we're doing a sleep tac M for milliseconds, 250, right? Which is just going to wait for your 250 milliseconds, quarter of a second.
It looks like it's doing the same thing over and over again.
Exactly. It just does it a bunch of times. So when I run this, and Shannon, this might be a little difficult to come out on camera, but take a look at my keyboard right there.
Oh yeah, I see. Okay, so your caps lock has a little LED light on it, and it's going on and off.
Right. Most all keyboards have caps lock LEDs. The reason that I want to do this is because it allows me to have positive confirmation that as soon as my first stage has run,
you have a physical visual confirmation.
A visual confirmation
Cool.
that the first stage has gone ahead and started executing.
Nice.
And then along the way, I can use this kind of technique to tell various different stages if they have also executed.
That's really smart.
You can get LED lights from caps lock, num lock, and scroll lock on most modern computers. Nowadays, I go with caps lock because it's what you're going to, like, especially on like laptops.
Yeah.
More commonly only see that. You don't really see num lock lights and such. But on desktop PCs, very common to see caps lock. I'm a little numb, so I'm going to take a drink.
So if somebody wanted to put in nums lock or what was the other one?
Scroll lock.
Would they just have to type out scroll lock just the same way?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the name of the character or the key.
That's awesome.
What's really interesting about this, though, is the state of numlock, caps lock, and scroll lock is stored on the computer, and so it's actually not stored on the keyboard.
Oh.
So those states can actually be enumerated by the duck. Probably outside of the scope of this particular conversation, but interesting stuff could be exfiltrated slowly.
That's really cool. Okay.
Using those LEDs.
So moving on from there.
Moving on from there, basically the rest of this is to run that C script. So let's take a look at that. So it is C script i.vbs e.cmd. Because I could just run e.cmd, right? And I could use start/min e.cmd to just run it minimized, but then I would have a command prompt running at the bottom of my screen. I don't want that. This i.vbs, let's take a look at that. So this is the single one-liner of i.vbs. And all this does is it just does a WScript shell run of the file with this argument that just tells it to be, I know, right? It's totally obfuscated. But essentially what this does is it runs whatever batch file we tell it invisibly.
What?
And actually, that was kind of borrowed from the USB Switchblade.
That's cool.
So now we actually don't need to worry about any further obfuscation. And actually,
because it's all built in already.
It's all built in. Originally, the technique I was using was to do everything invisibly in the batch script, and then have the batch script just say installing Windows updates, and then run the batch script minimized so that if the user did click on it, it would be like, oh, a DOS prompt that says installing an update. I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So let's take a look at what it does now. So this is finally e.cmd, which is now running invisibly. So I can actually get rid of all of this stuff because it doesn't matter. But there you go, installing Windows Update. First thing that we're going to do is delete those registry keys. So this right here, Reg Delete, we can just pass it any registry key, and we'll see right here I have, a couple of things in my run line. Right? Let me go ahead and open my CMD and go ahead and take a look at this command. So Reg Delete, the actual directory here in HKey current user, and then tac F, which will do a force, because otherwise it's going to actually prompt us. So we want that tac F, so it's it's non-interactive.
Okay.
And now when I pull up the run line,
everything's gone.
Everything is gone, yay! Okay, so that's step one. Second step is to go ahead and create a couple of directories.
Oh, this is a slurp, okay.
This is a slurp. Slurping comes from an old term called pod slurping.
Well, you showed us slurping last week when you were slurping up the desktop text documents. So is this pretty much the same?
This is the continuation of that.
Okay.
The nomenclature comes from an old attack called pod slurping, where some journalists figured out that iPods are mass storage, so you could use them to exfiltrate large amounts of data out of organizations.
That was before I knew anything about hacking.
Right, because oh my gosh, you could
Way
have
back in the day.
You could have 20 gigabytes on an iPad or iPod and walk out of or you could pull a what was the name of it? Not Snowden, the more recent guy that like exfiltrated like terabytes from the NSA.
From the NSA, yeah, that guy.
Wow. Okay. So anyway, storage has gotten a lot cheaper, a lot faster, a lot more ubiquitous with the USB drives. The term is kind of just a nod to that. So I'm still using the slurp directory. Call it whatever you'd like. But essentially, what we're going to end up here is on my drive. You see, I've got those 3 files, the I, E, and D scripts. And if I go into slurp, I don't have anything yet. So what I want to do is create new directories for every time that I run this on a different computer. So I've got this make directory command to do exactly that. And it's making a directory with the variable DST. So I have to set that variable DST to something. So this set DST, so it begins with this really weird %(D0). So that is essentially the path to this batch file. I'd show you in an interactive CMD, but it's not going to do anything because I'm not in a batch file. If I did echo %(D0), it's going to echo that back out. But if I run that in a batch file, it'll actually tell me, actually, hey, let's do this for fun. Fun.cmd. I don't know, echo %(D0). Control Z, hit enter. There we go. That's a quick and fun way to make a file. Now, if I run fun, it goes ahead and echoes C. So it gets the drive letter. It gets the letter of where we are. So we're saying, in this case, set a new variable to whatever drive letter we're on, \slurp, computer
name.
name.
Your computer.
So,
okay, I see what's going on.
So if we echo, as you might imagine, computer name, it's whatever your computer is named. That's great, but if I use this on the same computer multiple times, I don't want to overwrite files, so I also want to get the date.
So each time it's going to give you a different date.
Right, now if I look at the date, the actual date environment variable just gives us this like ugly, it's not the way that I want it to be, especially that space right there and these slashes are going to cause some confusion. So to really pretty this up, and this was kind of a new one to me, it's kind of the equivalent of cut in Linux, but this is a fun one in DOS. Basically, you take the environment variable, right, and then you put a colon, a tilde, and then we can say minus how many characters, and then comma how many characters forward to do from that. So that's not going to make much sense until I hit enter. Oh, hang on, let me echo it, because it was like 2006.
This reminds me of Vi. I don't know why.
Yeah,
VI.
right? let me go ahead and echo date again. So we've got it right above, and now echo this. And you can see what I've done is I've gone back. So the string ends. This is what I get out of date. What I'm saying here is -4 is going back 1, 2, 3, 4 characters.
Right.
Then using the next 4. So in that case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So that's how I get 2016 out of that.
Yeah.
Now I can continue stringing those together with obviously the next one is go back 10 and go forward 2. And now I have 2016, 11, and continue, continue, continue. And you might imagine that now I have the computer name underscore the date. And because we may do this multiple times per day on the same computer, I'm also doing an underscore, and I essentially do the same thing with time, which, as you might imagine, in of itself isn't very pretty because we've got colons and dots, but suffice it to say, the rest of this makes it pretty.
That is so cool.
So that's just to make our directory where we're going to keep our slurp stuff. I actually don't need this. This is just a redirection to say don't give me any output, send it to null. Since this is going to be run hidden anyway, but whatever, couldn't hurt.
Okay.
Then we're going to do an if exists user profile /documents. So that's just a simple if statement that says, hey, do you have a user profile /documents? I know I do, because if I dir that,
because you're on Windows.
because I'm on Windows, actually, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
How'd that work? These are actually my aliases.
Oh, you aliased it. Oh.
Yeah, these are just stupid aliases. In fact, hang on, cat synchronize Windows /ls.cmd.
So you aliased a bunch of Linux commands to Windows. That is
actually,
so funny.
The best ones, like cat, for instance, which I'm using right now, which lives in system32 /cat.cmd, will take in whatever the variables are. So I can send it up to 4 files and it'll go ahead and do the equivalent, which is type.
Oh, that's so great.
Point was, what were we even talking about? We were, oh, right. So if I ls that,
so you didn't
obviously
need null.
I have documents.
Yeah.
Great. So I've got all sorts of cool documents. I want to have fun with those. And let's go ahead and copy them. So I have them remmed out here because there's a couple of different variations of this. Basically, this xcopy command is the magic. So this xcopy is going to use a couple of flags. First, /c is going to continue even if an error occurs. /q is going to do it quietly, which I guess doesn't matter considering it's invisible anyway. /g is going to allow copying this encrypted files to an unencrypted destination. /y is going to suppress any confirmations, similar to that /f in the delete registry thing. And then /e is going to copy directories and subdirectories, including empty ones, right? So what'll happen is, since I'm looking for just certain information, in this case...
You're just looking for PDFs.
Exactly, I'm just looking for PDFs. Even if it finds a directory, in fact, let's go ahead to my documents over here. If it finds, for example, this Adobe directory, there's no PDF files in here. Premiere Pro, there's no PDF files in here. It's still going to copy these directories, just not populate them with anything because it doesn't match what I'm looking for. Which could be cool because it will, in addition to copying all the files I want, give me a directory map of what else, you know, I can kind of come up with an idea what's there, especially if there's
nice. You're doing recon.
Yeah, right?
That's really cool.
You could end up with like directory structures like expense reports /2014 / paid or whatever.
Then you might be like, oh, I should copy over CSVs.
Right? In fact, we could run this command multiple times depending on the different file extensions that we want, because here's the thing. We could just copy everything.
That might take a long time, though.
Right. How big is your flash drive, right? And so basically, depending on, this goes back to the very beginning of our attack, which is to do reconnaissance and to do targeting. Because there's no sense in just shotgun getting everything.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to make a payload that's going to execute quickly and just go after what I want. So I know if I'm going into if I'm trying to get the human resources files, maybe it's PDFs that I want.
Yeah.
Maybe it is Excel sheets, so I want XLS and XLSX, whatever the file extension
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, then I would go after that.
Okay.
It really depends.
Yeah.
So let's take a look here. The alternative to this is to use a /s, which basically does the same thing, except it doesn't create the empty directories. You know what? Yeah, we'll do that one. And then lastly, we're going to blink caps lock again. So what happens is the first time we execute this, it blinks to let us know that it's begun. And now we just...
Does it just go dark for a little while, and then at the end it's going to blink some more?
Yeah.
Cool.
And in between, we're not going to see anything on the screen. And the only thing that ever happens when we actually run this is, and I'll show you right now, because I'm going to go ahead and save this.
This is awesome.
So I'm going to save this right now. And I've actually purchased this, but I'm so lazy that I haven't plugged in the license key because I reinstalled. I don't know if anybody else is like me like that, but anyway, shout out to Sublime Text. It's a good editor. And the last part just blinks it. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the stripped down stager, just those 65 characters, and minimize everything else, and take a look at, real quick, you can see here we are in...
I like that wallpaper, by the way.
Oh, thank you. /slurp. There's nothing in it right now. I'm going to go ahead and run that, which is what the USB Rubber Ducky is going to do. Windows key R, type that, hit enter. PowerShell pops up, disappears. OK. And if I manually refresh, nothing happens. And
well, that didn't work.
Yeah, no, it didn't. Yay. Now
Darren, why did it not work?
Why did we just spend the last 5 minutes debugging the code? Because the difference between my 83-character stager payload and the 65-character stager payload has one very key difference. Let's take a look at that, because basically what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, PowerShell, assign to a variable $u the drive letter with the label _, then CD to that drive letter and run CMD. Big difference. Whereas this just runs d.cmd. So what happens is it runs d.cmd, which, as we know, we'll go ahead and run our C script ivbse.cmd, and then all of the other fun stuff will happen. But what it does is it essentially runs it from within wherever the working directory is.
Right, it's not changing the directory.
So it doesn't do the CD to, in this case, D drive or whatever. It doesn't do that first. Because of that, what happens is it runs the equivalent of C script i.vbs e.cmd right here, which, and then Windows is like,
and then you get an error because it's not doing anything.
Because it's not there. Because you know, if I dir, it's not there. It's on the E drive that I actually have those files. So, funnily enough, in debugging this, of course, Shannon goes, "Oh, would it have anything to do with that D0 tilde thing?" And
it was a good guess.
lo and behold, yes. Going back to that really funky characters, the alias, right? So we've just updated d.cmd now to do C script. Hey, C script, go do, in this case, the drive letter that this batch file is residing on, which is for me E, but for you will be different, maybe. Backslash i.vbs, and then pass it, again, this was the equivalent of e:\/ e.cmd.
Right.
So now that those files are saved, let me go ahead and go into my slurp directory and let me delete this. Yeah, I didn't want to delete the entire slurp directory.
Control Z.
Yeah, it's okay. Just recreate it. And now if we run that 65 character solution, which I don't have in my dropdown because guess what the first part of this page does? It actually deletes the thingamabobber, the history, which means I now have to come to my notes and grab it again. So, had I used this, it would have been fine. But I want to use this because it's going to type that much faster. It's shorter. The shortest payload is the bestest payload. So, run that. And here, I'll go into slurp directory so you can see it live populate. So all that the Ducky payload is going to do is WinSCR, type this in, hit enter. That pops up, disappears. And now, when we refresh the page, or refresh the Explorer, there we go. We have
Yay,
the computer
it
name,
worked!
time. And if we go in there, hey, look at this. We've got files. Now, as you can see, if I go into my actual documents, you've got a lot of folders. But this only grabbed a few because it only grabbed the folders. It only recreated the ones that actually have, in this case, PDF files.
Yeah.
Like Allie and Chris's wedding, I have bridesmaid.pdf, which is
you made her a bridesmaid graphic. That's
right.
So cute.
Yeah, they met at a pub, so they've got a cute little. And I do a lot of illustration and stuff. So we made this one, which was
wedding beers.
Really fun.
Oh,
the wedding
so
is near. Buy me a beer, right? And isn't that cute? Yeah, I know.
That's
Darren likes to get his
adorable.
illustrator on sometimes.
Cool. So we know it works.
Yeah, I even have a W9.
For less than 70 characters.
Right?
That's really cool.
Yay. I just exfiltrated tax documents off of my documents folder.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And a little scary.
Yes. So I'm going to write all of these up for you guys to just copy and paste and use at your leisure. What we're going to do is next week, if we don't take a break, we're going to combine them into a Ducky script and flash drive mayhem device for your exfiltrating goodness.
Yes. So cool.
Yes. This is the part where, as you have been yelling at the screen saying, no, D tilde parentheses backslash would do it faster, leave those in the comments. Or just leave D parentheses tilde backslash.
And we'll be right back after a quick break.
Cheers. It's time once again to thank our awesome sponsor, Domain.com, because they are both awesome and a sponsor, which is why I call them that. And I was actually just over at Domain.com recently because I was registering a domain name for a super secret awesome project, and I go over to Domain.com because they have a super simple checkout process. It's fast, it's easy, your website's gonna be up and online in no time flat, and also because I get 20% off, because I'm smart. I use the coupon code HAK5, and you can be smart too by using the coupon code HAK5. That spells Hak5. Use it over at checkout at Domain.com. Save yourself 20%, and you know what? Tweet them at Domain.com and say, hey guys, thanks for hooking us up, and thanks for all the Hak5 love throughout the years. And next time you need a domain name, think Domain.com.
It is now time for our Technolust photo of the week. Every single week, we're asking you guys what tickles your Technolust. We want to see your pictures. Send them over to hashtag Hak5. You can send them over to Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook to win some awesome gear from the Hack Shop, because we love seeing what kind of tech you guys are hacking with. So this week, our winner is Hell-Hit-1,
who sends us his turtle exploit. And I'd say, hey, you know what? That's a Windows Phone exploit right there. That's a cute turtle exploit.
That's really
before
funny.
I saw the photo, I was like, oh, right, turtle exploits, and then awesome. So I was thinking,
it's a legitimate turtle exploit.
I was thinking we should send Hell-Hit-1 a land turtle. But it seems like he's already got a turtle. So
if you want a ducky, we'll send you a ducky instead.
you let us know. If you want a ducky, follow along with the exfiltration, or if you want a land turtle.
So I'll get in touch with you. Congratulations over Twitter so I can get your shipping information. And you guys make sure to send in your pictures, because you could win all sorts of different things from the Hack Shop every single week.
Right.
And that is hashtag Hak5 again, HAK5. Hopefully you know how to spell the name of the show. If you don't, look above or below. It's there somewhere.
You can find awesome Hak5 gear over at the Hack Shop, like the USB Rubber Ducky, the Land Turtle, the Wi-Fi Pineapple. In fact, if you want to get all three in an awesome kit, we have just relaunched the field kits.
Everyone has been asking.
I know. I love the Hak5 field kits. We've put together some awesome kits, and you can go check that out over at hakshop.com. There are versions with the new book. Which I wish I could show you, but they get delivered tomorrow. But this airs next week, so everything is cool. Time travel is very difficult.
Time travel is fun.
Yay! But check it out. The book is awesome. I'm very excited for this, and Shannon edited it.
We also got a sticker.
Ooh.
And I think this one is for you because it's from Midwest Moto Rider.
Oh, what?
I'm gonna hold it that way.
Oh,
there you go.
Nice. Oh, dude, thank you.
Yeah, so
hey,
you
okay,
sent
here.
a sticker.
You wanna grab that, Midwest Moto Rider? While I take care of the
I will read it.
YouTube.com/C/Midwest Moto Rider.
So I wanted to send a sticker, let you know I've been a big fan of the show since back when you were guys on the when you were on the East Coast in the house just over a decade ago. I changed my channel name from ZyPie. Not sure you remember that name or not. I do remember ZyPie. It's nice to see you again. Hi. Anyway, keep up the great videos. Much success to you and the rest of the Hak5 crew. Who knows, maybe one day I will head out west for a really long bike ride and show up at one of the meetups.
Right, well, if you do, let me know. I'll take you to the
cool.
Twisties.
I also have a domain.com sticker too that we got from our sponsor, so I'm going to stick that up on there too.
I put those on my head.
Because we love them.
Hey, guess what? You can send us feedback at feedback@hak5.org. You can also comment below with your D:tilde. What did I say it was?
Yeah, one of those. YouTube accepts those.
Let's just, you know what? That'll be the next challenge. Let's now take that 65 characters and turn it into base 64 and pass in PowerShell, because that sounds like fun.
That sounds amazing.
Yes.
And if you have stickers that you want to send from your hackerspace event or what have you, you can send them to hak5.org/address. That's where you can find our address.
Yes, and while you're at hak5.org, you can find all of the other shows like Metasploit Minute and Tech Thing and Threatwire and Hak5 and Hacktip and all the other good stuff.
We have an audio RSS feed on Threatwire for our patrons.
Nice.
So if you are a backer at patreon.com/Threatwire, you now get access to an audio feed. So you can listen to it offline.
It's like a radio show.
I know, isn't that cool?
You have such a face for radio, Shannon.
I'm going to drink the rest of my beer and hit that bottle on your face.
Continue drinking my beer. Until next week, or the week after, my name is Darren Kitchen.
Yeah, it better be week after, because you're going to be in the hospital.
We might be taking a week off, we'll see.
My name's Shannon Morse.
Trust your Technolust.
You want to talk?
No.
You want to say something?
No.
There's something you want to say to me?